Welcome to the Traveling Professors. I'm Professor Bob.
And I'm Professor Sheri.
And together we are
the Traveling Professors.
Today we're going to finish up our trip to the Temple of Karnak. We've gone all the way through the main temple. Now we're going to head off to the southern extension of the Karnak Temple, where we'll look at the Pylons number 7, 8, 9, and 10, the Sacred Lake, as well as the Temple of Khonsu. So let's get started. Well, here we are back again at the central part of the main temple, just before heading into the hypostyle hall. We're going to take a left and head out to the section that we're going to be viewing, the southern extension. Let me use this aerial photograph to illustrate some of the things that we're going to look at. Here's where I'm standing when we will take our first set of pictures in this entry area. And you see that we have Pylon 7, Pylon 8, Pylon 9, and Pylon 10. Then over here on the left is the temple complex, the Khonsu. Then going back, we have our place for lunch, the area where we'll be seated when we come back for the sound and light show, and then here's the Sacred Lake. Now the Sacred Lake is the largest of any temple lake in Egypt. It's 130 meters long, it's 80 meters wide, it's 4 meters deep. And in ancient times, at the time of the Nile flood, there were 3 sacred barges of the Theban triad that floated on the lake during the festival of Ophet. An aerial view that's a little further away shows where everything is to some extent connected. You can see the main square, which is the main part of the Temple of Karnak. There are additional sections for each one of the triads. You have the one up here, one over here, and then if you go through the gate at Pylon 10, you head off to what is known as the Precinct of Mut, and that's a whole section of Avenue of Sphinxes as well. Then if you go over to the Temple of Khonsu and you go through that gate, that is an Avenue of Sphinxes that goes to Luxor Temple. Here's our old friend the model that we saw in the first section of the Temple of Karnak. And here we have the whole section that we're going to view completed. It's not colored, but it's completed. You see the Temple of Khonsu, and then you see all of the various pylons. And then this little schematic shows something I haven't mentioned yet. Here, once again, are the pylons. But notice number 4. Number 4 is known as the Cachette Courtyard. When we get to that point, I'm going to talk about, first of all, what it looks like, and then I'm going to tell you what they found in here, and it will absolutely astound you. As we leave the central core of the Karnak Temple, we come to this opening. When you walk out in the opening, you have this huge courtyard expanse. Now I'm going to pan from right to left. So here we are looking at the wall, and there's some people, and there's the other side of the courtyard, and there's some other temple areas. And you get to see towards the end, you see the walls, which are part of Pylon number 7. You see the opening, which will eventually lead us through Pylon number 7. And this whole area is called the Cachette Courtyard, or the Courtyard to Cachette. And then this is the other wall. Now out in here they have one of the temple's obelisks from Hatshepsut laying there on the ground that you can see. And it's interesting, when you're here in the light, it's hard to get a really good view of the hieroglyphics. When we came back out in the evening for the sound and light show, some of these were lit up, and you can see what darkness and a little light does to being able to read the hieroglyphics. But before we can go on in and look at the rest of the courtyard, Sheri and I are hungry, so we're going to have lunch. Over by the side of the Sacred Lake is a nice little restaurant. It had a very good selection of food. The food was very good. There was plenty to drink, had good restrooms, a great place to relax. And you can sit there and kind of catch your breath. Now, Sheri and I have already been here almost 4 hours, so we did really need to take a little bit of a break. I'd also mention, too, that there's kind of a trick to some of these big temples. If you get there too early, you really don't want to be the first ones there, because that means all the guards have just you to concentrate on to help you with getting a better picture and that sort of thing. If you come too late, there may be too many people. Now this section that we're in, this southern expansion, never had a lot of tourists in it, and you can see from the size that it does allow for lots of people, and yet you wouldn't notice that they were there. But by the time we're here, it's 1 o'clock, 1:30, and the buses have been coming in for quite some time, but it was really pretty uncrowded while we were there. Then as we're getting ready to leave, I took this picture. This is where you come in and you have the sound and light show. At least I believe that. We hadn't had it yet. So I thought that we'd go up into this area and would sit in this stadium-like seating area, and then the show would go on pretty much as it did when we were at the pyramids. Well, I was completely wrong about that. So that was a complete shock as to how that ended up going. But that's another show. So let's get back to the temple. Here's a shot back looking at where we came in. There's the obelisk of Hatshepsut. Turning around the other direction, you can see the edge where the pylon number 7 is located. So we're right at the very end of this Cachette courtyard, and you see the scarab, and that's a gigantic granite scarab. It's not originally part of the Karnak temple. It was actually part of the temple of Amenhotep III and was near the Colossi of Memnon, but it was moved here to Karnak when the temple was destroyed, and it also looks... Now the thing about this Court de Cachette, in 1902 to 1908, archaeologists in this area, when they were doing the excavation, found 779 stone statues and 17,000 bronzes. And one of the top objects is this beautiful green schist statue of Thutmose III, which is in the Cairo Museum. Now we are heading towards the backside of the pylon number 7, and then we'll go through it to pylon number 8. So as we get closer to it, you can see the various statues dedicated to the various gods. Some of them have been moved to this section, and when you go through the gate area, now you can see the backside of pylon number 8, and it's pretty smooth on this particular side. But once you get on the other side of it, you get through the gate and look back, now you see a spectacular view. Now it looks a little messy, and there's a couple of reasons for that. It was originally built by Hatshepsut, but then her name was erased from the monument by Thutmose, and then he put his material up. And so this has been altered on a couple of occasions by various people. And as a matter of fact, you'll find this is true also with pylon number 9 as well. And of course, remember, it would have been painted in ancient times, but you can still see the hieroglyphics on it. And now we're turning and looking towards pylon number 9. Now, pylon number 9, as you can see, it's in pretty bad condition. They're doing a lot of restoration work on it. It was built by Horemheb. Now, Horemheb was the leader of the royal chariots under King Tut, and he becomes one of the pharaohs after the death of King Tut. So he's mixed up in all sorts of different things. But of course, King Tut replaced his father Amenhotep IV, or Akhenaten. What's interesting about pylon number 9 is the fill debris between the front wall and the back wall was made from broken pieces of the destroyed temples of Aton, which of course was the only god worshipped at the time of Amenhotep IV or Akhenaten, and early in King Tut's reign. So it's interesting that a lot of that material has been removed for archaeological purposes, but that's what they did with it originally. And so one can assume that later pharaohs wouldn't be quite as kind to Horemheb, and so he would get more damage than you would expect. Now, in between the pylon number 9 and pylon number 10, which ends the gate to this southern area, is a series of small temples. One of them was to Amenhotep II, the other one was to Amenhotep IV. Unfortunately, Amenhotep IV's temple is non-existent. It's been destroyed, and Amenhotep II's temple is badly damaged. So there's a little section of it here, as you can see, and then the guard took a picture of us in the area where you should have had a statue of one of the gods. Now we reach pylon number 10, which is the south entrance to the Temple of Amun-Ra. But if you go through the gate and you're looking out this direction, you have this beautiful avenue of sphinxes. And what that does is it takes you to the precinct of Mut. And here's the aerial photograph that I showed you at the beginning of the show, and you can see where Mut is down in here. And then there's a little better view of it with the temple and the sacred lake, which goes around it on 3 sides. So it's a very interesting area. You can go further. It was just getting late, and we were coming back for the Sound and Light show, so we needed to sacrifice something, and this was what we sacrificed, because we wanted to go to the Temple of Khonsu. From pylon number 10, you can see the Temple of Khonsu, and you can see the gate in front of it. So once we get over there, we decided to head to the gate and look at the interior of the gate. The hieroglyphics are just absolutely spectacular. The roof also has great hieroglyphics. This gate has this huge avenue of the Sphinxes, which actually goes all the way down and connects to the Luxor Temple. Unlike Pylon Number 10, unlike that gate, you can't go through this particular gate yet. The government is in the process of restoring all of those Sphinxes in position, so you may at some point be able to. Here is the front of the Temple of Khonsu. Now, the entry into this temple was built by Ptolemy III. It's in the southwest corner of the Amun precinct, and it was built for the moon god, Khonsu. It was originally started by Ramses III. The decorations were completed by Ramses IV, Ramses XI, and King Haron. So the eastern pylon is actually 32 meters wide. Now, as you enter through the gate and you come into the temple, you come into the courtyard. The courtyard has this very nice unblooming lotus plant for columns. And then as you leave the courtyard, you go into the blooming ones, the hypostyle hall, where there are 6 of these beautiful pillars holding up the roof. And you'll find this baboon carving. And then as you leave the hypostyle hall, you come into the sanctuary area where the main sacrifices would have taken place. When we were in the sanctuary area, a couple of the archaeologists and workmen came in and talked with us a little bit. And when they found out that we were history teachers, they took us back and showed us a section that was not open to the public. It's where they were working on the hieroglyphics. So one of the workmen took us back into some of the rooms that they were working on and restoring. And here you can see the quality of the hieroglyphics in this particular area. And of course, one of the workmen doing some restoration. And then here is some of the areas they still have the work. You notice they have installed barriers so that they're getting ready to open this up to the public. It may be open to the public now at this particular point, but the quality of the workmanship and the vividness of the colors is just outstanding. So once we had viewed this for a while and taken our pictures, we then decided it was time to head back to the hotel and take a rest because we were coming right back in the evening for the Sound and Light show. Well, the walk back was a little long, so we turn around and here we are leaving the Temple of Khonsu, going out through the main gate, seeing the gate heading south. We turn and head towards Pylon Number 9, and then there's Pylon Number 8. We go through Pylon Number 7, and now we're getting ready to go into the main central core. So here we are back in the center of the Temple of Karnak once again, and we walk out through the courtyard area, and there's the main gate, and you can see the people are now starting to come in little larger numbers. We get out through the gate, big crowd. The Avenue of Sphinxes is just stuffed with people. So we start walking back to get a taxi to head back to the hotel, and we ran into this nice little spot where you could stand and have a nice little picture taken with the gods. So Anubis and his associate are there on either side of Sheri. We then got back in time to nap, have a little dinner, watch the sun start to set, and then it's back to Karnak for the Sound and Light show. Sheri and I hope you enjoyed the tour. Please come by our YouTube channel at Bob Packett on YouTube. It should be History According to Bob, but it comes up as Bob Packett. That's the easiest way to get to it. And please subscribe and leave some comments. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed the show. Please subscribe, give a comment, and if you like history, please come by historyaccordingtobob.com website where I do 6 podcasts a week on different topics in history, and there's all sorts of CDs and other things that you can see. So thank you very much.